Well, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's begin right away with our next session, which is titled Low-Cost Technology Options for Affordable Service Delivery. Well, with differentiated banks coming into the financial services industry, the emphasis, of course, on low-cost technology for affordable service delivery. This is the USP. While the SFBs and the payment banks have this as a mandate, universal banks do need to look at such options. Are we geared as a services sector to address this need? To deliberate on the same, we have the panel here with us, moderated by Mr. Ramaswamy Venkatachalam, Managing Director, India, South Asia, Fidelity National Information Services Inc., India. And our distinguished panel for the session comprises of Mr. Alexis Lebel, CEO, OpenCBS Hong Kong, Dr. Pavel Shus, Executive Director, Russian Electronic Money Association, Russia, Mr. Mohammad Faizer Rahman, Executive Vice President, Head of Operations, Associate for Social Advancement, Bangladesh, Mr. Sriram Vinjamuri, Business Head, Microfinance and B2B Rural Lending, Vice President, Axis Bank, India, and Mr. Sagar Kirpekar, Vice President, Sales and Strategy, iExceed, India. I hand over the session, of course, to our moderator, Mr. Venkatachalam, to kindly take it forward from here. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have the timer we'll have the timer on screen for your perusal, and we'll have another 5 minutes for the Q&A after that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's indeed wonderful to see the Forum of Microfinance coming together. I've been to a few events, but this one is interesting because of the amount of international participation that I've seen. Microfinance has evolved along multiple dimensions, but one of the aspects of microfinance, which we're here to talk about today, which is about affordable, low-cost technology to supporting the microfinance business. Given the level of international participation, I think we'll present very interesting discussion topics today about what we can learn from India, from various parts of the world. So I'm quite looking forward to this, and to support me in this, I think we have an excellent panel. Again, in keeping with the theme of the international participation, I think we have a great representation here from different parts of the world. So I'd like to kick it off by talking a little bit about the affordability aspect, and we had a chance to catch up earlier this morning with some of the participants and even backstage. And I'd like to kickstart by inviting Mr. Faizer Rahman, who really represents the microfinance industry, to kick it off, to talk a little bit about from a Bangladesh and also from a Asia regional perspective about his experience, and talk a little bit about himself, and then we can get moving.
Very good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. As you know that microfinance is the best tool. It is well recognized that it is best tool to elevate poverty. That's why a good number of microfinance institutes are emerging every day. But the question has been raised, how far the microfinance institutes are cost effective and sustainable? This is the big question everywhere in the world. In Bangladesh, I should say that number of microfinance institute is more than 1,500. Now it is around 2,000 in Bangladesh. It's a very small country. Total area size is 147,000 square kilometer, and total population is around 160 million. But in such a small country, number of big MFI are working in Bangladesh. Right now, number of active borrower is around 31 million in Bangladesh. Around 300,000 young educated people are involved with this sector. It's a big. Now I like to give very short overview about ASHA. ASHA is one of the leading and largest microfinance institute in the world. And right now our number of borrowers is around 7 million. We have 3,000 branches throughout the country. And ASHA is well known for its cost-effective and sustainable microfinance operation. It's a purely donation and grant-free organization. We don't have any donation and grant from 2000 only, but we have the savings. Our total loan outstanding is around 1,820 million US dollar, of which 40% of the member savings. It's a big. As the session is cost effective, we are very much conscious about the cost effective operation. Our branch reach even a break-even point within 12 months of operation. In case of other MFI, it takes around 2 years, 3 years. I'd like to give some information. We consider the cost effectiveness operation from two perspectives. One from borrower perspective, that the client perspective, and second from the institution perspective. In our operation, member need not to pay any tuition, any admission fee, loan processing fee, nothing to take the loan. Only on-page loan application form has to fill out. It takes only 1 or 2 minutes, or maximum 5 minutes. Very simple operation. And member is allowed to take loan after 1 week of enrollment. Member can withdraw their savings in the meeting place by giving any prior notice. No need to serve any notice to receive the savings in the group meeting. These are the members' perspective. But the organization's perspective, I'd like to tell you, mainly ASHA stand on 4 standpoints. Rely on 4 points. First is simplification. Second is unification. Third is decentralization. Fourth is manualization. And number 5th is automation. I like to give very short example of each of the points. Simplification in our operation, how it is simple. Our branch structure is very simple structure, having 4 to 5 loan officers, on branch manager and assistant branch manager. We don't have any accountant and cashier in the branch level. Although in each branch, on an average, loan outstanding is around 0.7 million US dollar, but we don't have any cashier and accountant. It's a self-maintaining accounting system we are following. Second thing is that we have some layer like tier like regional manager, district manager, zonal manager, but that position is the single position. We don't have any secretarial staff in those positions. They are the mobile supervisor. This is the simplification. Unification is that, if you visit one branch, you will visit 3,000 branch. It means that our furniture, fixture, costing structure is almost same. Even the sitting arrangement in the branch office, almost same. This is the unification. The decentralization is the big issue for us. That's why it is possible for us to expand more areas to reach remote areas. Our branch staff is authorized to disburse all kinds of loans. They do not rely on the regional manager, area manager, they have to authorize. And they are the bank signatory. All staff members are recruited and trained from the field level, not in the head office. This is the decentralization process. Then the manualization. Manualization is, we have the manual, operational manual containing 500 pages, around 500. Each and everything is well written in the operational manual. How to be the selection procedure, member selection procedures, how will disburse the loan, everything is well mentioned in the operational manual. That's why our training for the loan officer is only 7 days. We call it pre-service training orientation, pre-service training for the newly recruited staff. In each branch, we have the operational manual, and usually we take the exam on the basis of the operational manual, whether the staff member are aware about the operation, about the policy, procedural system.
Automation.
This is. And the final thing is that automation. This is very important area in our operation. Automation. We have our own software. With the help of that software, we have introduced the mobile tab application in the beginning of this year. No, in the last year. Out of 3,000 branch, almost we have installed mobile tab application in 1,500 branches. And our plan is to cover the mobile tab application at the end of this year in the whole branches. With the help of the mobile tab application, Simply our loan officer carry the mobile tab to the group meeting and collect the installment. A paperwork already been reduced and time already been set. One thing. Second thing is that with the help of another thing is that instead of on-site monitoring, we are making on-site monitoring also, but we have the off-site monitoring. As the head of operation, I can see the branch what branch is doing, what branch manager is doing. I can see the status every day by sitting my table. Okay, and another important area is that personal file, keeping the personal file of the branches, of the whole staff. It's a self-maintaining personal file system with the help of the automation. In other cases, 5-6 member is required to take the personal file, to maintain the personal file. But with the help of the automation, it is not required to maintain the file. If you say the client, staff member history, you can easily see the automation. And finally is the asset management. We need not require the stock register manually. It is also automated. So these are ways we are maintaining and also it is very much helpful for us to save a huge amount of cost. Thank you.
Thank you, President. I think that was a very elaborate description of pretty much everything that he did. So thank you very much for that. Very quickly, and I'll make this a little controversial, I'll bring in Sriram here, represents the banking fraternity, but is also responsible for the microfinance business that Axis runs here. And I'm trying to get the folks who consume before we come to the technology people here. Traditionally, and here's the controversial part, banks have a higher cost structure. And the topic of discussion today is how do we deliver affordable low-cost technology for microfinance. You have a portfolio which is microfinance, you also have the bank. How do you reconcile the cost structures of these two businesses? And any ideas that you can share on how you're catering to that segment where you really need to have technology that improves service delivery, because I don't think there's a compromise on service delivery, but how do you make it cost effective and affordable to the various partners in the ecosystem, Sriram? And as I said, request if you can keep it short, we give everybody else a chance to speak. Thanks, Sriram.
So I think I'll just touch upon two topics from what I gathered. If I missed anything, you can let me know. I think as the topic that we're talking about today says technology, and over the course of yesterday and the start of today, I think technology probably is the most common word that has been used right through the conference. So I think the importance of technology in the microfinance space, I think is there for everyone to see. I don't think there's any doubt about how important it is. But I think there is some commonality, or people are trying to equate the word technology simply with having a mobile or a tablet in the hands of the sales force. And I think that's where, as a bank, we try to differentiate from what other microfinance companies are doing. And the software that we have is built in-house, proprietary. It has a lot of algorithms which go beyond what the general credit checks that the rest of the microfinance companies do. And we're calling it affordable technology today because there's a lot of money that's available in the market to invest purchasing all these tablets and mobile phones. But what we need to understand is technology actually is a commitment for life. If you go down the technology road, what you're going to see within 6 months, a year, you're going to see technology get redundant, you're going to see upgrades being needed. So it's a commitment that you have to give for life. And for us, it's not just about service delivery. So it's not just about service delivery. I think we need to ensure that technology helps us in managing credit costs. I think it needs to help us in managing operational cost. It needs to help improve productivity. It needs to reduce the time that the customer requires to take a loan. And when you factor in all these benefits that technology actually is giving you, I think that's where the technology actually becomes affordable. And that's largely what we as Axis Bank try to do when we introduce any technology.
Thanks, Shreyam. So would you say that if you look at it from a totality, then the affordability comes in. It's not just a linear function of saying I'm processing this at a lower price per transaction.
Right. So today you may say I'm saving X rupees because I moved onto a digital platform. I don't need paper but that's a very tactical way of looking at it, because you have capital costs that are going to be incurring continuously. Mobile phones are going to get spoiled. So unless there's like a sizable benefit in terms of cost reductions, not only physical costs, but credit losses, operational losses, and so on. People are going to find that technology is actually not as cheap as what they feel it is today.
Sure. No, I can resonate with that segment. If I were to pass it on to Dr. Shaus, and Pavel is how I'd refer to him, having introduced myself this morning. Interesting bit about Russia, and I'm sure many of you heard him yesterday, and I believe he shocked a number of you with the interest rate in Russia. But I'd like to veer him to a different topic. You've heard, the issues on the microfinance side in terms of the cost structure of supporting this business. What's the Russian experience? I mean, we always heard about Russia being so advanced in computing and coming up with innovative ideas. Anything you'd like to share? Of course, your introduction as well, for the benefit of audience that wasn't here.
Thank you very much for bringing up interest rates again. I appreciate that. Anyway, I will start with very maybe brief overview of what we have in Russia and conclude with some philosophical conclusions. Well, I mentioned yesterday that we have a very big country and not so much population, only 150 million people living here, and compared to many different Southeast Asian countries, that's not so much. So the primary objective is to somehow lower costs for non-face-to-face interactions with the customer. And the primary idea of microfinance institutions in Russia was traditionally that person comes into the office and you provide the cash loan. And that's pretty straightforward, how we move it to the cashless thing. Well, in non-face-to-face environment, the idea is pretty straightforward as well. You provide lots of interfaces where you can provide your data to the microfinance institution. Microfinance institution needs to score you and provide you cashless money. But providing part is very difficult because most of the Russians do not use bank accounts for payments. If you ask me, for example, a number of my bank account, I have no idea. Probably I can look it up somewhere, but I can't. Happily and luckily in Russia we have quite big infrastructure on electronic wallets, on prepaid cards, institution prepaid cards, and microfinance institution actually use them. So you basically fill out the form on the website or using your smartphone and you get your money instantly on your prepaid card or e-money wallet. But I love face-to-face models more, and that's why. That's not straightforward because a customer comes to the office with nothing but his ID. So what do you do? How do you provide cashless loan? You can approve it, but that's quite complicated. And actually banks and microfinance institutions developed a business model that allows microfinance institution just to transfer information about the client to the bank. Bank approves the prepaid card online in real time. Microfinance institution takes the prepaid card that is stacked in the office and gives this prepaid card with a loan on it just instantly in real time. I love this business model because actually customer gets two financial services instead of one. First is a loan, second is a payment instrument. It can use the prepaid instrument for this matters as well. So not to take lots of time, I'm going to philosophical conclusions. I think that something that we have learned in Russia is that cooperation is the key. Microfinance institutions are very limited in their mandate. They do not have many functions. They can provide loans. They can take money to cover these loans. But unfortunately, they cannot make fund transfers according to legal arrangements. They cannot issue prepaid cards. They cannot open e-money wallets. So cooperation between banks, electronic money operators, microfinance institutions is actually very, very important. Basically, statistically, we see more innovations happening on the dots and spaces where different sectors actually meet. We don't see lots of innovation in microfinance sector itself, but when they meet with their counterparties from e-money perspective, that's lots of innovation. And second thing, I think that maybe simplicity and straightforwardness should not be a goal in itself. Cost effectiveness is important, security is very important. Obviously, different other considerations are important as well. So we can use the same technology to mainstream the AML safety requirements, cost effectiveness, security, for example. I mentioned yesterday that some microfinance institutions' offices were robbed at gunpoints because they have lots of cash. If you have lots of unregistered prepaid cards, there is no point in robbing it actually, right? And final conclusion is that, in my opinion, well, at least that happens in Russia a lot, microfinance institutions somehow ride on the back of the existing infrastructure. We have lots of ATMs, cashing machines, banks, etc., etc. I think that without those, microfinance institutions, at least in Russia, would not be able to implement innovative models. So this is a larger picture. I don't think that if economy doesn't innovate, I don't think microfinance institution has the capability to implement lots of innovative models. So this is really bigger picture here.
Thanks, Pavel. Again, very nice exposure to the goings on behind the scenes about what happens. Especially intrigued with the fact that a lot of the MFIs ride on existing infrastructure. Don't try to create a lot of the stuff on their own, and I'll come to that a little bit. I have two more panelists on the speaker, and very quickly, Alex kind of represents the systems, the reliable systems that microfinance and banks rely on, and I will come to Sagar, who represents the front end. So, Alex, if you would like to comment a little bit on the whole aspect of affordability, also tie it in with the theme of you've heard from the MFIs the pressure on cost, but it's not only cost. There is a real cost to owning technology, and it'd be good if you can talk about that and the various models that people can adopt going through our experience.
So good morning, and thank you for inviting me. So I'll explain a little bit, yes, how OpenCBS we are trying to make low-cost technology available for most MFIs and smaller banks. Maybe just a brief introduction. So we were set up in 2006, actually, when we were, actually at that time I was working for a microfinance institution in Afghanistan, and we realized that there were very few solutions that were available at a reasonable cost for microfinance. And that's how we started actually developing our own solution, thinking from the onset that it should be flexible, open source, agile, and of course affordable. So that's how we started developing the solution, and progressively we started making it available to other microfinance institutions. So I think the key in terms of low cost is to be able to provide a solution which is good enough, of course, for being used by the MFIs, but also at a cost which is reasonable. How we did it at the beginning, we wanted to do a kind of QuickBooks of microfinance. We were actually in France, I'm French, and we realized, well, it was not possible because the costs in France of development were too high, and also because, well, microfinance is not that standard, and we realized soon that the practices of all MFIs were actually different. So what we did is actually we moved all our developers and our team to Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia, where we had operations, and that's how we could kind of nail the business model, by which we have a free core banking solution for the core. So we, of course, the code is freely available, can be downloaded and modified by anyone. By anyone was the capacity, of course, but we offer affordable customization because our team is actually, our salaries are reasonable because we're in a low-cost country, and we offer also good support for a reasonable price. And of course, we accompany the client during the whole process with, I would say, professional project management from the onset. Now, in terms of example how it can work, so I think a lot of, there were some experience in India with open source before. I think the way we made it work is by actually centralizing the development of the core. We don't really want to have too many, of course you can touch the core, but we don't really want to have too many people touching it, because otherwise, of course, you end up with different versions, and it's very difficult to manage, and it might have also an impact on, I would say, the strength and the security of the system. So we change the core ourselves. We support only our versions developed by us, although anyone could change it if you like. And then we have an open architecture by which we work with open APIs so that we can connect different systems. So, for instance, I'll give a few. Well, in former Soviet Union, we work. There are some kind of kiosks that are used for collecting cash for the repayments of microfinance institutions. Of course, we link with those kiosks to recover the money and the repayments of the clients. We of course link with accounting systems. In India, we work. For instance, we have a client in Bangalore, which is Vartana, doing loans to affordable schools, and they use nCollect for collections. Of course, it's interfaced by API with OpenCBS. Of course, we also work with payment gateways, with credit bureaus, with mobile money solutions. In Zambia, we are also discussing with actually Evolute, which was supposed to be in this panel, in order to actually use their hardware for actually, I would say, our collections and eKYC and appraisal solution. So I think that the open architecture is very important. And therefore, we welcome also contributions, we welcome discussions with other actors. The idea being also that because we are working for the community, we are welcoming contributions and, of course, suggestions from, I would say, different users and partners of OpenCBS.
Thank you, Alex. And I thought it was interesting to see that you have various models of support. So MFIs can choose the level at which they want to pick it based on the cost structure that they have, and the open source model obviously allows for that opportunity. Moving quickly to Sagar, we've heard a little bit from a backend and from a host processing perspective. I'd like to get the experience, from where you see it, because you're tackling a lot of the last mile problems. There's a lot of feeling, as Sriram was saying, that mobility will solve the world's problems, but we know we live in the real world and there are real challenges. So how do you see it from a front end, last mile, deliver service to the customer? Because I think that characterizes microfinance better than any other business model out there.
Sure. Thanks, Ramas, and good afternoon, everyone. I would try to give you this insight, and I would hope it resonates well with the current opportunities and challenges that you face in day-to-day business. What we have seen thus far, if you look at in the microfinance space, digital adoption has been to a certain extent. So we have seen that there are tablets that the agents or the feet on field do carry, and there are different solutions based on the maturity of the respective financial institution that the BC does carry to the market. And this is where what we have seen is that the length and breadth of that offering needs to be now very well covered. So what I mean is we'll need to extend that offering right from onboarding to origination to collections, extending it into insurance and so on, and see how best the feet on field is equipped to take up all the aspects of the life cycle of the loan. Similarly, if you look at what is a further extension of this is in terms of the head office or the management having complete insight on the MIS and the analytics of the disbursements, of the collections being done on a regular basis. So that is the next level of evolution that we will need to see when you talk about the microfinance organizations embracing digital. What we have also seen is with a whole lot of adoption of social media, there is a lot of embracement of aspects associated to mobility, and there are people who are hooked onto smartphones. How do you ensure that the wave that we have in social media banking can be extended into social media lending and so on, so that you get the mind share of the customer base as and when they are on the smartphone? So all these things are going to evolve over a period of time. There is the right amount of infrastructure available with all the NPCI and Aadhaar. With all this in place, the onboarding is no longer an issue at all. But how do we extend that to other sectors and at the same time ensure that we do go beyond what the current MFI business model is, and ensure that the microfinance organizations are able to cater to the larger segment of extending into financial services, getting into banking and so on. So what is required is a holistic view of what is this technology transformation, how can we look at scalable solutions that will work for today's needs as well as tomorrow's requirements, how can we look at ensuring that we have technology assets that take care of the entire complexity, may it be omni-channel, may it be mobile, may it be smartphone, tablets, laptop, desktops and so on. So how can we ensure that we can give a seamless view irrespective of channel, and ensure that that entire channel approach is seamlessly taken up by the providers. And that is where there will be a whole lot of challenges going forward. And one other aspect I will touch upon is in terms of adoption by the end customers. When you talk about digital in microfinance space, it is all restricted as of now to the B2E model, which is the feet on field. And I think it's just a few years down the line that we should be in a position to embrace digital for the end customers. So we will need to have apps for the end customers. We need to have the apps work on whatever platforms that the mobile platforms that the customers would be having. So there is a whole lot of adoption that will eventually happen, and there is more and more uptake possible through the use of digital. And that is the only way I can see that the operational cost can go down significantly, wherein you replicate the banking model, wherein more and more work is pushed to the hands of the end customer or to the feet on field. And that is where this combination of the channel solutions and the low-cost solutions which will be at the back end need to seamlessly work to ensure that aspects are covered for the end customer.
Thanks, Sagar. I'm just keeping an eye on the clock. We're really, right there. So I would have loved to do another round, but what I'd request each of you probably take about 30 seconds to do this, and we can open it up to questions. Really, in a sentence or two, one area that I want to touch upon is this: the topic says affordable solutions for microfinance. Do we think that, going forward, looking to the future, that this affordability quotient will be enabled by a lot of ecosystem? So in India, you have Aadhaar, you have lower cost of telecoms, the infrastructure costs, when sourced at scale, huge scale, even in the Russian example, do we think that there's possibility of, MFIs coming together in a collective way, either as a group or as a network to help, look at, I'm just saying, is there a possibility of another way of sourcing at scale? Which is really what drives, the Ubers and the Lyfts and the Facebooks and to lower their costs. Service levels are very high, but you still are able to bring the cost down. So in a second or two, I'd like a view on where you think the world is going, and we can go in sequence, Alex.
I just start with an example. For instance, if you think of ecosystem and also MFIs grouping together, one example is regulation and regulatory compliance, regulatory reporting, right? It's quite expensive for the smallest MFIs to comply with local regulations, and usually they don't also have the human resources to do so. So what we can propose, for instance, with OpenCBS, and we are working with a few regulators, for instance, in the Philippines, we are thinking of trying to have a solution whereby MFIs that are using OpenCBS can connect directly to the regulator system using our open APIs, so that the regulator can at any time get the regulatory reports on time and automatically, and also, well, those small institutions don't pose a systemic risk, right? But individually, they take savings, it can be a problem if one of them is collapsing, for instance. So also we could allow the regulator to get ad hoc reports, for instance, if there is a specific risk identified, to get some information from the MFI's system or the SACO's system just on time. So anything on regulation, APIs, and we could call it RegTech, actually could be very interesting as a project, and could be interesting, of course, to work with several MFIs as a platform, using all the regulator, all the microfinance associations as a gateway to provide a localized platform for each country, for instance.
Thank you for the question. I think that in Russia the new technologies are affordable already because there is competition between financial services providers, between banks, and basically they provide some kind of package services. They go to the conference and they show, okay, we have this package for prepaid cards, this for e-money wallets, etc., etc. But it's quite funny that you mentioned Uber in this respect. I would like to be maybe a little bit provocative. We are talking about non-face-to-face interaction, right? So come to think of it, do we need that much microfinance institutions, whether it is in Russia or in India? Maybe we need only one. If you interact in non-face-to-face environment, that means that you need one big computer that actually communicates with all the customers everywhere. You don't need lots of taxi companies, you need only Uber, right? So that's something to talk about, at least to think about.
Certainly provocative.
Yeah, that's at least we think a lot about this in Russia because we have more than 300 banks, and we're talking about how many banks do we need really in Russia, and that's a big question here.
Sure. I mean, you have to keep in mind cultural heterogeneity of people, cultures, and association, because microfinance, I think, is very deeply embedded with the culture of the region that they serve. It's changing, but in countries like India, you see very wide disparities. So sometimes maybe it's not always going to be an Uber, but maybe an Uber plus a flavor of India, maybe something like that, maybe. But certainly a good idea. Thank you, Pavel.
Yeah, history says that microfinance is purely supervised credit. Its success and failure mainly depends on the proper monitoring and supervision. No way. It is the only important area. Second thing is that financial literacy is also important. For the financial literacy for the client is very much important. Although we are moving forward the digitization, but we have to think about the financial literacy for our organized members. This is very important. Third thing is that whether the cost is affordable for the member or not. Cost. we're going for digitization. In Bangladesh, you know, around 20% people, they don't have mobile phone till now. And mainly we work in the remotest areas of Bangladesh, everywhere in the country, and because that's why in some cases it is very difficult for us to find the electricity in some places also, disrupted communication. So we need to think about that issue also. And finally we have to think about the staff workload of the organization, workload for the staff members. That need to be taken into consideration also. Okay, no problem to accept the digitization, but those things need to be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thanks. So just, I'll be really quick. I'm already under a lot of pressure, you know. I don't know, for people who can't see, there's like this big stopwatch that's like blaring in our face.
Yeah.
So,
Go for it.
Yeah, so just 2 quick points that I want to make. One is, I think you spoke about collaboration between microfinance companies. You know, essentially they're already doing that, right? The bureau is nothing but collaboration between microfinance companies. And to some...
Going beyond that, yeah,
Sure.
absolutely, they're already collaborating in that space.
Sure. So to an extent, the most important information that a microfinance company has today about its customers, it's willing to share with other microfinance companies, right? Be it because of regulation or otherwise, it's happening today. I think what's going to happen in the future is you're going to see a lot of other companies, not bureaus, providing you alternate data about these customers, right? Things that the microfinance company themselves may not be aware of today, right? Does he pay his electricity bills on time? How long has he held his prepaid phone number for? Is he someone who maybe on his social media has a lot of people who are asking him for repayments, etc., that he might have taken informally and so on. So the ability for us to read a lot of the alternate data and somebody coming with that alternate data and sharing that with the microfinance companies, I think is where collaboration will be seen again, because essentially I think in terms of technology, in terms of costs, collaboration will in a sense take away someone's competitive advantage to an extent. So it'll more be partnerships which will help microfinance companies collaborate as we go into the future.
Thanks, Shane.
Yeah, time's already up, but I'll just take a few seconds.
Yeah.
So what I would add here is that it's a generic observation that technology is definitely going to be an aid in terms of reducing the operational costs. But beyond that, if you look at the entire stakeholder community in this chain, right from the device manufacturer to the hosting company that will take up the core as well as the other backend applications, and the infrastructure that is being created by NPCI, Aadhaar and so on. All these areas, if you look at, there are a lot of efficiencies built in, the costs are coming down, the device costs are coming down, the network costs are coming down. So there is definitely a lot of efficiency and cost reduction being seen from all these stakeholders, and a hosted network, as you rightly started, in terms of a few MFIs collaborating, coming together, having a hosted solution. It's definitely the way forward. And that is where we can embrace the newer technologies, but at the same time ensure that the costs, both on the operation side, as well as ease of doing business, both are addressed very well.
Thanks, Sagar. I'm sure the audience got a flavor for what's happening in different parts of the world, as well as what from a technology perspective, what's going on, what's the thought process. I wouldn't really want to summarize because I'll be putting words in their mouth, but I think they express themselves so nicely that I'd just invite questions. I'd like to first of all thank the panelists for the views, appreciate it, and thank MFIN for the opportunity for us to come here and have this gathering here with this elite panel. But quickly, I know the time's up, so maybe a couple of questions. I see a hand there at the back, and we can address the questions directly. Would prefer questions rather than observations, and we can be more effective.
Sir, my understanding is that as an MFI, investment on software seems to be justified based on the long-term payment of it. However, for a purchase of a hardware, what we call a tab or a mobile phone, has a very small life, about 2-3 years. How does a smaller MFI justify the cost of that investment? Fairly large for us, about 15,000 rupees a device into a long force, and then the service of those.
No, I understand. So, for the benefit of everybody, I think the question is about affordability. The smaller the organization, how to get, be able to afford it. I think Alex answered it, but I'll request him to quickly touch upon that very briefly about how you can.
Yeah, I think we have two ways. I mean, one that I think Fazlur Rahman mentioned, which is don't forget that technology is one thing, but I would say meeting clients face to face and your I would say your operations and your procedure is also the most important still, right? What we mentioned briefly is that we welcome really MFIs to join forces. So if through associations, I don't know, advocacy groups, whatever, you could pool your resources so that we can develop a solution, or for instance, iExit can develop a solution which is matching the needs of 10 MFIs or 20 MFIs together. Of course, the costs are much cheaper and you would save in the long run. Now, I think in India, in Kyrgyzstan, in Hong Kong, in general, we are quite competitive because our costs are low, so we are already, I would say, priced well compared to the global market for our technological solutions. What I could add is also from our side, we are actually a social business, so we don't need to add a high margin above everything. So we can, of course, be affordable, but I think pooling is probably the most efficient. If you pool your resources, if you pool your requests, if you just need one standard solution for like 20 MFIs, as long as you're not competing directly, maybe, that's probably an interesting solution to save on your costs for the platform, and maybe also on your hardware costs by negotiating, I would say, bulk rates.
Thanks, Alex. I think we're pretty much done from a time perspective. Do you have time for the last question? Yeah, so, feel free to reach out to the audience because, as we keep saying, there's a big clock looming here. Thanks to everybody, Alex, Pavel, Fazlur Rahman, Sriram and Sagar. Really entertaining. I certainly got to hear a lot, but look forward to networking and interacting with you offline. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause for all our panelists. And may I request Mr. Sankalp Tripathi, team member SRO MFIN, to kindly acknowledge all our panelists here on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep the applause going. As we always say, from the 100% of the room is always welcome. Once again to all our panelists on stage, and thank you very much to our moderator for making the session so very interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, may I now request Mr. Rahul Tyagi, who's the Vice President Lucidus, who's here to present on tackling the future cyber threats. Well, the presentation will highlight the importance of cyber security in online transactions. Mr. Tyagi is also a white hat hacker, and we will be having a lot of fun in this one, I promise you. So over to Mr. Tyagi for this presentation.
Very good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're enjoying. So I start my presentation on, let's understand that how vulnerable we are on cyberspace. So can I have a smartphone? Anybody? I hope you're carrying smartphones. So many times it happens, you give your phone to someone, and I will relate this thing to finance so that the people who are from fintech and bank industry can understand that how big this threat is, and especially in India because people are not that well educated in terms of technology understanding. Still, you are carrying smartphones, but 80% of your smartphone features you never used, which is a big problem for us, So I took his phone. It's a OnePlus, right? It's a smartphone, good smartphone. So I will do something with this phone. So it took me almost 5 to 10 seconds to have his phone in my hand. So many times it happens, you go to airport, people come to you and said, can I call my mom, she's ill, and hashtag being human, you're like, yeah, please. And then after 5 minutes or 10 minutes you got a message, your money has been transferred to Saudi Arabia. And then you call your mom. So now it took me, I guess, 5 to 10 seconds to have his phone. Now, I will show you whatever he is carrying on his mobile phone on my laptop. Okay, so this is one of the applications we have designed. We work in 5 ministries, and I'm very happy to see one of our clients' logos is there. So I'll come to my organization that what we do. So we live by hacking, So we get a plate we get a food on my plate when we hack something, and will company pay us in a good way, not bad way. So This is an application we have designed for the one of the intelligence agencies XYZ to intercept the communication of criminals as well as terrorists or something. So if you see there, right now we have. So if I refresh it, you will see something which is coming up. So this is his phone, I guess, if it is visible to you. Sir, it's OnePlus, right? 83003. Okay, do you know IMEI number, sir? Okay, note it down. It's 86366. So why IMEI is so important for him, for in case you lost your phone, it's not the police who will find it first, it's us who will find out first, I'll give you 50% discount also. So I click on his phone and it says for how much time you want to spy on his phone. 3 months, 6 months or 1 year. And we are from Delhi, we always go for the audience poll for anything we have to do here. So how many say 3 months? Can you raise your hand? See, no one is your friend. Okay, this is your good friend. How about 6 months? 1 year? Suppose if it would be your phone then. So I'm a good guy, I'll go for 3 months. Huh? So I click on 3 months. And what we can see on his phone first of all. So let me show you one by one. First of all his call logs, whom he called a lot. What he called, we will not disclose it for sure. So I click on his calls and in few seconds we have his all calls. So as a hacker, if I have to trap him into, I have to blackmail him or something, I will not go for all the numbers. I'll go for the duration. The more duration is, that is the number we have to go for. So let's see the duration. Are you married, sir? Okay, that's why no long calls. Okay, here we have 6:36 seconds. That is, I guess, it's one of the. It's incoming. You don't call, huh? So you can recognize the number 048. Must be ma'am's number, right? And then we have maybe breakup going on these days. Again 318. Okay. That's suspicious. Something. I hope your wife will not get these kind of logs, So this is how you can predict the life of a person, that what is going on in his life, and as you can see, it's not going much good. So 848. Must be dad. I'm covering up for you, okay? So, okay. Now we are talking. And always incoming. Oh, you're getting from James mode or something? 007. So now, let's move to the next thing. What more we can do? SMS. Now this is very, very interesting, So if I click here on SMS, can you open that? No? So a little bit, Did you see the curiosity in their eyes? Book your home, okay? By driving, call you in 15 minutes. Okay. So what I can do with this thing, if I'm a criminal? SMS is one of the most important thing in today's online transaction. Thanks to RBI, we have OTP, which is not much used in outside Western world. But with this, I can bypass that. To make a transaction, the only last hurdle is your OTP. So if I have an access to his SMS, I can purchase anything. Getting account details is not a big deal. If we can do this, that we can do also. So now making a transaction, it's very easy for me. But not only this thing, this is his professional life. I can change the money and transfer the money and wherever I want. Along with that, let's talk about his personal life. Are you using Gmail, sir? Okay. So I'll go to his Gmail, reset his password, and the confirmation will go to the email. Or maybe the SMS. I can reset the Gmail password now. Once I have the Gmail, now Gmail is the backbone of your internet, internet usage of you. Your LinkedIn connected to it, your Twitter connected to it, your Facebook connected to it. Using Facebook, sir? With the same Gmail ID? Very good, sir. So, now, I'll go to his Facebook and reset his password, and the confirmation will go to the Gmail, which I already have. So now I can reset the password of his Facebook. And once I have been to his Facebook, There's a thing known as message. I have to type few crispy words there and type wherever these words have been used entirely in this chat ever, it will pop up. And that's, I think, more than enough to put him on the fire line. So this is how we are vulnerable in cyber world. Mobile phone is not only a device, it's a part of our body these days. When you wake up in the morning, you don't pray, you check your WhatsApp, which is a fact, you know. And the dependency on the technology is also brought us so much crime, which especially in India is a very big problem for us, after especially the demonetization and the way that digitalization is going on in India. So we are fighting hard to reduce this type of attacks by working with the government, by fintech companies, and in fact one of the largest private banks we are working and making them secure so that you will not get any problem at the time of your transactions and other thing. So not only this, let's move to some other thing. We have contact us, contact page. So I click here, I have his whole contact now. My delegates, always working, good. And then last thing is is browser history, which will not open for sure. Then we have to go for GPS, where he is exactly, and we have tracking. We can track him for the next 3 months, where he goes, where he check in, where he check out, what he call, etc., etc. And if I'm curious that there's too much duration is going on in the call, I'll go for the audio recording also. I hope you must know about the end-to-end encryption given by Facebook and WhatsApp and all thing, and you're feeling very secure. Yeah, it's end-to-end. So the problem with this is I have compromised his mobile. Now once I have compromised his mobile, end-to-end security works when the data goes out of your computer or goes out of your mobile phone. Then NSA or other intelligence agencies can't intercept that. But here I have compromised his phone, that means I have compromised his mic. So when he will say something, first it will go to my application which I have just installed into his phone, which is undetectable. By the way, he's having good antivirus in his mobile phone, but that doesn't work. And the good part about our application is it is in stealth mode, so no matter what antivirus solution you have, whatever the security you have, it will not be detected. Now, this audio recording I can record for 30 seconds and I can increase the time with respect to my requirement. So if he's in a meeting, business meeting, and talking to people and the phone is there, I can own his mic, I can own his phone whenever I want and can record whatever he's saying there. He just have to connect it with 2G or 3G maximum, or maybe he's flying G or something. So this is how vulnerable we are. So let me delete his phone so that he can sleep well. So I'm deleting your phone, sir. I click here. And here is your phone, OnePlus, and here is the option on delete. So we have 0 device. We have another option, undo. That we will not do. I'm just kidding. So now let's start the thing why I'm here, and I'll talk about few things. And so this is a very small PPT I just made when I was sitting there, to be very frank. So my topic is tackling the next generation cyber attacks, and it's a hacker's approach for securing online transaction. My company name is Lucidus, and we just got award as the best IT startup in 2016 by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. We are working almost more than with 100 clients and getting operations in more than 22 countries now. Rest of the details you can get it from there. So these are the 5 things we are going to discuss today. First is how vulnerable we are, that you have seen. Next is cyber attacks and organized cyber criminals. If you see 2001 to 2010, that was the era when everyone was transforming from the traditional desktop work to the online work. And from 2010 to 2020, this will be the era which will be remembered as the generation who actually got online. If you see the digitalization going on, money, you can buy clothes, you can buy so many fruits, even ration in Hindi we say, you can get from online, it's too much dependency on the online world. So this generation will be remembered in the history in the future as that generation who actually got online. But along with this facility, there are many problems which we are facing. I love internet for sure, but internet is international, that's why we call it internet. And when the demonetization happened in India, it's not only the local criminals who got attracted to it. There are foreign criminals who are outside India because they can approach us online and something like that. And they have designed so many technologies which are very, very undetectable by the antiviruses and all the other products which are there, because they are very, very organized. They are coming from the organized criminals who pay more amount into their research before, deploying the attack, which was never seen before. Have you ever worried about that who upload the movies on torrents and how you're going to get the free, of course, softwares from the internet? Have you seen any guy who tell you I upload movies on torrent? So from where the movies are coming? Nobody has paid attention, especially in India, you know. So the reason is, if you have seen the movie, there is written, you know, in the pirate movie, Team TNT, then DDR present. So these are one of the organized criminal gangs who, few of the one will originated from Moscow, Russia. So along with that, there are some is from Saudi Arabia and some are from other, you know, Western African countries. So once they upload the movie, they attach a malware with it, and the malware is so designed such a way that it can bypass the P2P network and so many other security mechanisms which are there. And once you double click on that, it will infect your system, and there is a keylogger which will be installed into your system. So once when you go to online banking, you use your keyboard. Now every bank tell you that no, you use online keyboard, don't do anything like that, don't type on your, but you always use your own keyboard. So once you're going to type on your from your laptop, it is going to be recorded. Every keystroke you make on your laptop is going to be recorded, and that is a text message, you know, and it will be sent in the background without any notification to the criminals who are sitting anywhere in the world. And the only thing which they have to do is they have to make a duplicate credit card of that. Now there's a very big myth in the people that criminals are going to use my money and they will purchase something. No. Now you see this fintech companies breach or banking breach or customers credit card or debit card is being hacked, is directly or indirectly is attached to the cyber terrorism also. This is the area which we don't pay attention. We feel if my money is lost, that means the criminal is using. Maybe the same money is being used by the Iraq troops or maybe in Syria to buy weapons and other things to supply them. So how they will do it? Once you have the credit card detail, they will sell it in the black market. For example, if I have $10,000 in your credit card, I will sell that $10,000 in credit card for $5 on black internet. That is known as the dark internet. The internet you know and me know a few years back, it is google.com, which you think that it shows the 100% internet to you. But the reality is Google only shows you 0.04% of the entire internet which exists on the planet. You can Google it, by the way. Along with that, again, a few years back, if a criminal has to design a malware or a virus, they want to destroy your computer. That's the reason you have to install Windows so many times. If you're from my age, you know, previous 5 years, 10 years back, you know, if you see, you have to install Windows so many times because virus comes and corrupt our system. These days, organized criminal gangs are not interested into corrupting your computer. They want to fix your computer remotely so that you keep on using it. So that one day you will go to the online transaction and use your credit card. So they are giving this favor for free, you know, fixing your laptop online remotely. So once you do it, and this thing can be done. Another problem is known as the state-sponsored hacking. If you heard about Iran 2011 Stuxnet, anyone? So Stuxnet, one of the first weapon was designed by the Americans and the Israel people to shut down the nuclear power plant of Iran. Now this was the first time in history that computers science, or you can say the technology, is being used to disrupt a very, very critical infrastructure which was never seen before. And almost about 1,000 centrifuges which spin and crush the uranium so that you can produce the gas, and it will go to the nuclear power plant and makes a nuclear bomb for the energy or maybe the destructive power. So that centrifuge what got burst there, and when the nuclear watchdog of UN's nuclear watchdog asked them that what happened, they denied that we don't know, it's a glitch. But maximum credit, it was Stuxnet. So I have a small video to show you that technology creating is so much problem. So this is about Stuxnet, so that you can get an idea that computer system can do so much more than outrun virus in your pen drive.
Of 20 zero-day. In June last year, a computer virus called Stuxnet was discovered lurking in the databanks of power plants, traffic control systems, and factories around the world. 20 times more complex than any previous virus code, it had an array of capabilities. Among them, the ability to turn up the pressure inside nuclear reactors or switch off oil pipelines. And Stuxnet could tell the system operators everything was normal. Unlike most viruses, Stuxnet doesn't carry the usual forged security clearance that helps viruses burrow into systems. It actually had a real clearance, stolen from one of the most reputable computer technology companies in the world. it exploited security gaps the system creators are unaware of. These holes are known as 0 days, and the most successful viruses exploit them. The details of a 0 day can be sold on the black market for $100,000. Stuxnet took advantage of 20 0 days. But once it got into a system, it didn't always activate. Buried deep in the Stuxnet code was a specific target. Without that target, the virus remained dormant. What was it looking to shut down? The centrifuges that spin nuclear material at Iran's enrichment facilities. Stuxnet was a weapon, the first to be made entirely out of code. The Washington-based Institute for Science and International Security says the virus may have shut down 1,000 centrifuges at Natanz, Iran's main enrichment facility, last year. In November, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, said Iran had suspended work at its nuclear facilities without explaining why. Many observers credited Stuxnet. Last month, the Iranian government conceded the virus's infection of the Bashir nuclear facility, still under construction, meant that switching the plant on could lead to a national electricity blackout. Iran has responded to the attack with an open call for hackers to join the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and has reportedly amassed the second largest online army in the world. So who was behind Stuxnet? There's no evidence beyond rumour. Some have it that Israel is responsible because the virus code apparently contains references to the Hebrew Bible. Others believe the US was involved in the testing and development. The finger has even been pointed at Siemens mobile phone company, whose software is used by the Iranian regime. The most important question may not be who designed it, but who will redesign it. The evolution has been so fast that 9 months after its detection, the first virus that could crash power grids or destroy oil pipelines is available online for anyone to download and tinker with. You can watch people on YouTube pulling Stuxnet apart. It's an open source weapon. And there's no way of knowing who will use it or what they will use it for.
So if you see, we have a bigger problem to tackle. So these days, what Chinese are doing, what other cyber terrorists are doing, ISIS is trying their level best to get into the critical infrastructures because they don't have to carry weapon every time, and to be physically there. So remote attacks which are going on, and they want to generate money also by hacking into banks and hacking into other fintech companies to steal the credentials of the customers like credit card detail and debit card. And then after that use that money to buy weapons and other things. So if you got breach in your e-commerce company or maybe your bank, then there is a very huge probability that that money is not going to the local and simple cyber criminals who will have money and have a holiday in Miami, but this money is going to be used to kill people also. So it's also our responsibility to take care of that also, in case you have. But how you will do it, first of all. So the conclusion is something for this thing that we have to take care of these three things in every organization on the planet, whether you are a government agency, whether you are a private player, whether you are e-commerce or so on. Every company consists of three main parts, and these are the three parts we have to pay attention to give cyber security and to give cyber security to these three pillars of every organization. First is the process. I'm talking about the compliance part of your company, policy making. Make sure that in the companies, wherever the policies are, email policies, there are clean desk policies are there. In every policy you pay attention and put some kind of points with respect to cyber security. We are a country of more than 1.25 billion people, and we are not going to work until there is a movement, just like a Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, or if you remember the Aadhaar card, remember? They brainwash you on the TV, Kisan ka hak and all, and you got into a rose, I want to do something for my nation, I want an Aadhaar card. So this kind of movement is required in cyber security also. And then is the people, The biggest challenge for us is something to teach 1.25 billion, over 1.25 billion people, because today the amount of loss our economy is getting is not from the virtual world exactly. It's something when a person's money who is in a village, he lost his money. Still 70% of the world population lives in villages. That area we have to take care of. Now it's kind of the bad area where nobody want to go, but we have to take initiative in our company. We have already we're going to train 10,000 people from these kind of cities so that we can create an impact on security. which other players are not doing for the time being. But I think everyone has to pay attention on that. And last is, in your organization, second last is in your organization, if I ask you how many cybersecurity sessions you have like this one, if I tell you don't give your phone to anyone, nobody pay attention, But now, you will not give your phone to your life partner when you go home now. This is, the shaking is required, and we are shaking people in a very hard way. Last is the technology. We are paying too much attention on the technology by buying firewalls, by buying UTM system and the security solution costing 10 to 20 lakh rupees. But you will not train your employee because it's not a technology. You can fix any technology, but there is no fixing of human stupidity. So if a technology is of 1 crore rupee and the person who is sitting, he don't know how to operate it, then you are still vulnerable. So the amount of investments which you are paying to the technology, same investment you have to pay equal or maybe more than that, because it's the person who matters, not the technology. So you have to pay attention on his security, awareness training and other thing and technology, so that he can use that technology to the optimum level to defend the attacks which you are facing in your organization for the same. And what I feel is something that in India, as we're going for digital India, we can only achieve a very, very successful digital India if it is a secure digital India. Take an example of smart grids and smart cities. You will be flabbergasted to know that almost 80% of the global hardware is getting supplied from, is going manufactured, power grids and security is manufactured in China. And there are so many case studies that they are putting backdoor malwares into the hardware. So if you are a technical person, you can understand, if a virus is in your computer, in the operating system, I can detect it somehow, I can delete it and I can remove it. But if the malware is into the hardware, then that is a big problem for us. But there is no antivirus is designed to detect these kind of malwares. Pentagon caught Chinese people to put the routers, internet routers into their custody. They supplied fake routers into the Pentagon so that when the traffic will go, internet communication goes out, so it will go out to the internet, also it will go to the Chinese also. It's not all apples are bad there, but some of which we have the case studies or the facts and figures which shows that this thing is there. Now we are making smart cities and in our other in the country so many cities. So imagine if that hardware is going to be implanted there, and in the future they can control the entire ecosystem and the cities of our country remotely, which is a very, very big concern for us for the time being. So if you really want to, as I told you, then that if you really want to have a successful, secure digital India, then a general or simple awareness of cybersecurity as a culture has to happen to Indian culture and has to happen to every citizen of India. Then only we can achieve the goal of the digital India and a secure digital India. Thank you so much. If you have any query, I have 2 minutes, 3 minutes to spare. If you have any query, you can ask me for the same.
Good afternoon. My name is Roshan.
Yeah.
It was a deadly combination of threat and humor from your side. In recent years, we have witnessed two major hits that was online. First was in Bangladesh, and second was recently for Union Bank of India in Mumbai. So, as a banker, we are very vulnerable to that particular hit. So, can you please say something on that? How to prevent that, or how that happened?
Just come to us. Just kidding. So.
Thank you.
So the thing is, as I told you, these are the 3 things you have to pay. If you see the infrastructure cost you have there in all the banks, can you imagine the cost you have paid on the technological part? People you are paying firewall, UTM system. If I say how many security awareness sessions you have in your bank, you hardly can count on fingers. That is a big problem for us. We are paying too much attention on the technology. See, understand, technology has given us comfort. It will not give us life. And life is more vulnerable than the technology actually. So the people who are behind the organized criminal gangs, if you see Stuxnet also, it was not a direct technology attack. One person tricked to put a pen drive into the computer and then the malware goes there. Almost 80% of the attacks globally are happened because there is no awareness in the person. If I have to hack into a company, I will not hack into the infrastructure. I will hack into their accountant. And accountant is the backbone of your company. They are not trained to see. So he is habitual to see the PO email. So I'll send him a malware of PO emails. He don't know is the PO email is there. I click there. Once he clicked, his computer is compromised. It is connected to the entire internet network in the company. From his computer, I'll spread there. Very simple. So these are the small key areas, and trust me, it does not require a very huge number of amount or a very high scale of paycheck you have to sign. As compared to technology, I think it's 1/5 of that you have to pay, but it will create a big impact in overall ecosystem of the security in your company. So culture you have to set, and for example, I was talking to one of the bank people. I said, if you can do once 5-minute thing, when the person comes to you and open a bank account, you do 5-minute thing. Trust me, almost 70% of the breaches or hacking or person lost his money, it will be removed. He said, what should I have to do? I said, I'll give you 10 points. When the person open an account, you have to tell them, sir, there will be few people who will be talking to you in English and saying that we are calling from bank. And from a villager, if someone talks in English, still there is a phobia, oh, he must be from bank. And then he will share all the details. It's a fact I have seen in Bihar and all the areas which are there. So I said, tell the customer that you can get a call. You should never, share your PIN. You should always use ATM. Make sure you hide it. This is the thing which they are not doing. Tell me if I'm wrong, because it takes 5 minutes to, when a person opens the bank, he should sit with the customer and tell him this thing. If we make it as a culture, this 5-minute thing only, not a rocket science, you will see in the future you will create a huge difference. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
One. Well, mine one is a little utility question.
Sure.
What we hear quite often is maybe iOS is more secure than Android, or an Apple laptop is more secure than Windows or others.
I got it.
Is that true?
So the best phone, secure phone is on the planet today is Nokia, where I'm concerned as a hacker. Why? Because nobody is using it. And BlackBerry for sure. Why? See, when 82% of the global mobile phones are Android phones. So if I'm a terrorist, if I have to bomb people, I will not bomb people who are 2-3. I will bomb, there is a majority. It's not that something is vulnerable or not. It's something which is more used by the people. That is something going to be attracted by the hacker. Then as a criminal or a hacker, I will be attracted to it. It's nothing, I can do the same thing with iOS. Anybody having iOS? Can I show? Open? So, thank you.